I want to talk about abortion or ending abortions forever. And this is not the kind of topic or ideas that I pursue. I'm usually more comfortable going after people like Trump administration thugs, like Mnuchin or oh, why am I in this field? Why am I being showcased? But people come around and ask all this stuff all the time, and it's a dilemma that they have. And uh, I have some experiences dealing with this. I am a failure in that department, but usually people have an interest in figuring out if, like, philosopher or mathematician, how would they go about dealing with this very difficult or uh, morally difficult to solve or confront issues, and then I get a knock. But the only instance of dealing with abortion was I have an ex, Marlene. You're gonna figure out why I call her sometimes Evil Marlene. We had our second kid. I think he was going to be a boy, and then while we were married, which is very strange because of all the stuff that was going on, she decided that she's going to have an abortion. And no amount of reasoning and no amount of cajoling and threatening and inducements would work. I really did not like the idea, and but our relationship was very bad. She was doing a lot of drugs, and we did some fist fights, and it was going down the hill, and we both knew it. I just wanted to manage it and do damage control, like no matter what happened, my kids or kids would be provided for. But she went ahead and did it, and I think that in Islamic Sharia law, or also I think Christians look down on abortion, but in Sharia law it allows abortion, but it kind of says that, hey, don't do abortions after the 3 months or the first 90 days, because that's like killing a person, or the ghost of the person that's going to be this baby is coming in after 90 days. Well, I don't believe that story. I think it's a kind of a legal fib to try to limit the damage that women do by walking away. Well, I told my ex that if you abort my kid, and then I'm going to abort you, this means like we're done. You have to. I'm just gonna walk out, or but the threats that it doesn't work, and they went ahead and did it. Uh, Usually, like philosophers or mathematicians, when they have a problem, or if there is a philosophical or mathematical dilemma that does not lend itself to any kind of solution, and there's always squabbling or speculating on how to solve this. I could use one example. It was called Fermat's last theorem, which was like a very difficult number theory problem. Well, one mathematician solved it. I think his name was Wiley, and the way he did it is like paralleling it, or modeling it in terms of another mathematical or geometrical problem. And sometimes the problem that's in one set of equations is so complex, and notations do not lend themselves easily to solutions. But when you dress it up in geometric form, or vice versa from geometric form, like um, analytical geometry does, a lot of problems become very easy to solve because they are now in a different domain, and something that we cannot easily solve by using lawyers or going to court or making legislation or being liberal or conservative. Just we are constantly confronted with dealing with the problem that's we have to resort to spirituality or religion, or go to court, or make threats and inducements, and it's not so easy. And the women or the men, they find a way around all of this legally or otherwise. But when the problem is couched in a different form that's technologically and economically very feasible, very easy, then we can gradually migrate this problem into a different field that's very easy to solve, and everybody seems to be happy. Well, the technology to save babies has become very advanced, and they are able to save babies that are like just 4 months through the pregnancy, or even less, or they have artificial womb now, and so saving kids, even when they are like just a few weeks or a week into pregnancy, is not medically or technologically something impossible. It's very much possible. It very much can be done. And also, the embryos can be frozen. If somebody has a baby and they don't think that they can manage this now, then they can freeze this embryo and go after at the other time in their life when they're in their 30s or 40s, and we go from there. So maybe well, I don't think that the cut and dry legal methods, like if a government that comes on that's extremely conservative, like and makes it totally illegal to have abortions, then there will be a segment of population that will bypass the laws. Either they'll go to another country, or there will be like a cottage industry that does this cut and dry, and nobody knows about it. So it will go on, and but it will become more expensive, and also might become dangerous, because these people or clinics, they'll be running from the law too, so it won't work, or will not work very well. But then another method of dealing with this would be if the government or the religious organizations, they instituted programs that provide a very good alternatives. For example, say a church would say, hey, well, you can have abortion, is legal, and we can't stop you, but we're gonna give you like $10,000. You come to our clinic and have your abortion there, and then we don't care, you don't want the baby, and we'll save the baby by our technologies, and either you can come back at a future date and resume the pregnancy, or we'll use artificial devices, and will have the baby, and will put it up for adoption, something like that. It will be like a program that's running concurrently with everything else that that goes on, or the government can do the same program and give financial inducements and make the participants, like the mother and the baby, both totally anonymous, and with the legal safeguards for the future. I think the government can do this a lot better than the, well, there might be abuses. Some women will have babies just to have abortions and get the $10,000, but the extent of the technological achievements and the financial might that society enjoys now is to such an extent that we can do these things. We can instead of giving all the money to lawyers and going to Supreme Court, we can model these problems and bring it into another area that we're able to solve this problem by other means. Why everything has to be like the strictest religious or spiritual domain, or end up in court? Well, a lot of these laws, for example, the Sharia law, when they were instituted, the society was in extremely primitive or very violent times. Like when religion of Islam came, Arabia was just a bunch of tribes, just like Indian tribes, and they had some laws, but there was nothing unifying. There is nothing that you could put your hand on and say, this is the law, and I can count on it. And the laws were very strict because they were violent society, and they were tribes. There was no prison, so when there was time for enforcement, it would usually be cut off the hand or kill him, something like that. But we don't live like that. The economically, not even 50 years after religion of Islam came, society was not living like that. There were prisons, there were judges. So we should take these things into effect. In fact, in Islamic Sharia law is like the skeleton of a person. It's simply the most basic element of the law. Usually in Iran or other Muslim countries, they don't say just the Sharia law. They say Shar va Urf. Urf means culture, which means it takes into consideration how the society is economically, technologically, and if the people of that society want to cut off somebody's hand for stealing an apple, they might not want that. They might want to give them a monetary fine. It's subject to political influence, or a lot of rulers, they judge according to our customs. I heard from a scholar, Islamic scholar, that the Quran itself has 14 interpretations. Each interpretation more spiritual, more humane than the previous one. The previous one is the most elemental, that they recognize, hey, there should be a punishment, but does not mean that it ends there. You can choose the level of the enforcement. It's pretty much the same here. Like you could be convicted in a court, and then but the the conviction could be different. At different historical times, they were give people who transported pot like years in jail. But now the police might hardly have an interest in confiscating even the pot. It's becoming legal. Anyhow, I think that this is my 2 cents worth on this topic. Really, I am personally very uncomfortable with these things that goes on in society, and I don't think that we can really stop abortions, but we just we can try to institute programs or ideas to minimize the unsavory consequence or reaction that society experiences. Well, after my ex had the abortion, I'm a medium, and I've had many experiences. The ghost of my kid coming back, and well, I wouldn't call it haunting. I don't believe in that haunting is a bad thing, or even if it's a ghost contacts you, is his family, and he has every right to see me or be with me, something like that, and it doesn't end. I don't believe that the spirit needs to the material world as much as we think that we are so important. Oh my God, we are not. Well, there would have been a journey, but it ended, and then but it doesn't end the bond that there is. Anyhow, well, thank you for being in my YouTube channel, and I miss bashing the Trump and Trump cohorts. I have to talk about abortion, but hey, maybe in the next video I'll go after them. I don't know. I think if Trump doesn't get assassinated or what do you call it, get impeached, I think he probably will get impeached, and then there would be riots. But if he doesn't, and he did some stuff that was not so bad. He stopped the North Korean war with USA, and I don't know if it will ignite again after he's gone, or he did a few things, and I think that I was watching the State of the Union. I thought that all the people, all the politicians in the Congress, they are a lot worse people than him. And Trump does stuff to placate the deep state, and then but I think sometimes his heart gets in the way, and he suddenly jumps in and does differently. I kind of wonder about this president. He comes in, he removed all these troops from Afghanistan. He completely stopped animosity with North Korea, and I'm not giving him credit. I'm not fond of the U.S. political system, but I don't want to criticize him as much as I want to do with other presidents. I think that this political system or this group, they are in their last days, but hey, he's doing some things might be positive. I think that one of these foreign generals, like from Venezuela or Iraq, might have the last word on the U.S. Politicians. Well, I talk to you later. Thanks.